as we're starting to bring this to a close, I'm going to start with you, Janice. So what is like your one key takeaway? If a viewer could walk away with one key takeaway from your perspective, what would it be?
Mine is it's a scary world out there.
Yeah.
Disruption is the new norm. Don't stick your head in the sand. Still try to be prepared and stay in the game.
Carl, something about the data, I think?
It's all about it's all about the data, but also remember, look past the chaos that you hear and see, and remember to focus on the main trends. The amount of data is doubling at a rapid clip, and what's happening as that data grows really impacts the way the economy is going to grow, and it really impacts your business. Security of the data, privacy. Are you getting used to these themes yet? It's all about the data, folks.
Pam?
All about the data. I think, I'm going to go back to Janice's. It's all about the disruptors. Because what we've seen happen over the course of the last few years is some new, whether it's the particular focus like antitrust or it's the new regulator. We as here in the U.S. hadn't thought about being regulated by the EU, but that's something that started happening. And so there's been a disruptive regulatory force as well. And as we look ahead to the 2020 elections, we may see more disruption on the regulatory, legislative, et cetera side.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to go back. I have tax roots here, so I'm going to bring it back to tax just because I see the world through that lens. To me, it is the remarkable convergence amongst Democratic presidential candidates, and I think elected Democrats generally, that we ought to be taxing capital gains differently than we have been in the past. It's become a bedrock principle that there'll be a preferential rate for capital gains. We've monkeyed with the rate, but it wasn't but 15, 16 years ago we were talking about zeroing out the capital gains and dividends tax rate. And then there's been periodic efforts at corporate integration and sort of one level of tax for corporate income.
Maybe the 1986 Tax Reform Act lives after all.
Yes, maybe.
Lord have mercy.
But Senator Wyden, ranking member Wyden, and would-be Chairman Wyden if Democrats were to take the Senate in this upcoming election, has a white paper out, a 30-page or so white paper, mark-to-market taxation, he calls it, or accrual taxation is one way to think about it, that would not only equalize the rate between capital gains and ordinary income, but require gains to be taxed annually on an accrued basis, not just on a realized basis. A whole host of implementation questions get raised here. But this, to me, based on the convergence you're seeing on the campaign trail around the taxing of capital gains and dividends income, and the convergence around some concept of a wealth tax, although maybe not as well defined, this Wyden proposal, to me, captures both. It can be structured in a way that it applies only to wealthier individuals. Mm-hmm. It deals with the capital gains and dividends treatment. It scratches the itch on wealth taxes, and because he's working on it now and proposing to have legislative language by January of 2021.
There's a nice little place in that pantry for it.
There's a place in the pantry for it. Someone gets elected president, a Democrat gets elected president, they ran on a wealth tax, and he says, we could spend 18 months trying to spec out your version of a wealth tax, or I have this bright, shiny new object here ready to go that scratches the political itch. And so to me, more so than any of the wealth tax proposals or the other things that are floating around on the campaign trail, this to me feels the most real as something that might actually become law if there is a Democratic wave